After enduring a grueling journey through infertility treatments, I was finally blessed with the child I had longed for. Then, I safely gave birth. I was on top of the world with happiness. During my hospital stay, my husband came to visit, but instead of offering words of comfort, he immediately brought up divorce. What's more, my mother-in-law was in agreement with him, leaving me completely powerless. Reluctantly, I consented to the divorce, but a year later, an unexpected turn of events awaited. I am Martha. Just 2 days after giving birth, my husband brought up divorce. Can you believe that? Just 2 days after childbirth is supposed to be one of the happiest times, right? That's normal, isn't it? The treatment I received at such a supposedly joyful time was unbearable. Looking back at everything leading up to the birth of our child, my husband Ryan and I had been unable to conceive for 3 years after getting married. When both of us underwent tests at the gynecologist, it turned out that Ryan was the one with issues. Both Ryan and I wanted children, and the pressure from my MIL for grandchildren was intense. So, we decided to undergo fertility treatments. 2 more years passed, and I finally became pregnant. It was a tough journey, but in that moment, I truly felt all the hard work was worth it. Then, after 10 months of pregnancy, I reached full term. It was a weekday and Ryan was at work, so I was home alone. Then I started to feel a strange discomfort in my abdomen, which gradually turned into pain. The pain came at regular intervals, so I called the hospital and decided to head to the maternity clinic. I also sent a message to Ryan saying, "I think I'm in labor." Ryan was at work, and since the due date was still a bit off, he hadn't noticed the message yet. Later, it was confirmed that I was indeed in labor, and as things progressed, I was admitted to the hospital. There was still no reply from Ryan, but the pain was increasing, so I had no time to check my phone. Ryan was supposed to be there for the birth, but without any contact, I had to face childbirth alone. And then, the much-awaited Martha baby was born safely. Truly, there's nothing like your own child, so adorable. Watching those tiny hands and feet moving with all their might was just irresistible. But even after a day, there was still no contact from Ryan. I had sent him the news of the birth and pictures of the child. Yet, he had seen the messages. At that time, I was so captivated by the cuteness of my child that I wasn't too bothered by the lack of response. But the next day, still no contact, but suddenly, Ryan and my MIL walked into the hospital room. "Hey. You look pretty worn out, huh?" Well, yeah, after giving birth. That's the first thing he says to his postpartum wife? Shouldn't this be a moment of touching reunion? I thought, but what came next was even worse. "Sorry, but can you agree to a divorce?" "Excuse me?" I said, "Divorce. Wait a minute. We've just had a baby. After giving birth, I just can't see you as a woman anymore." With that, Ryan handed me the already signed divorce papers. "Just can't see you as a woman anymore," he said, as if it were nothing, after we hadn't seen each other for a while. Looking back, it's ridiculously contradictory that the divorce papers were all set to go. "Sign this quickly. You show no interest in the baby, do you? Is it even mine in the first place? Huh? Maybe it's a child from your affair." "That's not possible." I had thought he would be happy to meet our child, but instead, he ignored the child and dropped the bombshell of divorce out of nowhere. And to suspect me of infidelity, no less. We had gone through painful infertility treatments together, and I thought it had brought us closer, that we were deepening our bond. But the happy family I dreamed of crumbled all at once. I pleaded with him to reconsider multiple times, but Ryan wouldn't listen. Eventually, even my mother-in-law sided with Ryan. "Ryan has a new bride lined up. So just sign the divorce papers quietly, please." "Bride lined up? Younger, prettier, and from a well-to-do family, unlike you." "But I am his wife." "I was actually against your marriage from the start. I always knew Ryan could do better." "MIL, how can you say that?" "Don't call me MIL anymore. A woman like you, I don't even want to consider you my wife anymore." I see. So it was an affair approved by your parents. Did hearing that make you want to leave? So, the divorce is final, isn't it? I've made up my mind. Not that I care about yours. Well, it's useless whatever I say. If you agree to alimony and child support, I'll consent to the divorce. That's more like it. I mentioned alimony and child support as a last resort, but Ryan was all too happy to agree in exchange for my consent to the divorce. And to think he had an affair too, my future seemed utterly bleak. Most of all, I felt terrible that our child would grow up without a father from the start. But considering the kind of father he is, maybe it's better he's not around. Reluctantly, I agreed to the divorce. I signed the divorce papers right there and then. Afterward, I was discharged from the hospital with the baby. I had planned to spend some time at my parents' home after birth anyway, so I went straight there. I shared what happened with my parents, and they were really worried, but I tried to keep a brave face in front of them. But at night, the uncertainty of what lies ahead made me cry alone every day. So, to clear my mind, I talked things over with my friends. Later, Ryan paid the alimony, and the child support was settled, giving me some peace. It was really tough for a while, but once the divorce was finalized, I felt a sense of release. Then one day, I went to the hospital for a postpartum checkup, but I saw something shocking. There was Ryan, oblivious to my presence. I wondered why he would be at the maternity hospital. Then I saw a pregnant woman beside him, clearly in her final months. That's not right, is it? I mean, it took 5 years for me to get pregnant, and his mistress got pregnant right away? The sadness welled up again. Just then, it was my turn for the checkup, and I entered the examination room trying to hold back my tears. Honestly, I was so out of it, I think I just gave the doctor non-committal responses. Maybe it was because I was acting so oddly, but suddenly the doctor asked me, "Is something wrong?" Huh? Postpartum, it's common for your mental health to weaken, so don't push yourself. Is your husband supportive with childcare? My husband. Before I knew it, tears I had been holding back just started rolling down my face. Are you okay? I'm fine. If it's okay with you, please talk to me. I'm sorry, thank you. Actually. Seeing my tears, Dr. Lucas clearly panicked. Dr. Lucas has been a truly wonderful doctor. I've been greatly in his debt since before the birth. He's bright and kind, and I chose this clinic because I heard so many good things about him. I hesitated to share private matters when asked, but I was on the verge of mental breakdown, so I ended up spilling everything about the divorce and the recent issue with Ryan. And crying all the while. Looking back, it's embarrassing. But Dr. Lucas listened seriously. To think such a thing happened during your stay. I'm sorry to have brought it up. No, I should apologize for prying. Not at all, I feel much better having talked about it. There's just one thing that's been bothering me. What's that? Your ex-husband was diagnosed with male infertility, and I'm certain of it. Just speculation, sorry. Please, don't mind it. Okay. He couldn't share details about other patients. I conceived through IVF, but now his current wife is. Dr. Lucas seemed a bit troubled about something. But it's none of my business anymore, and I don't want to be involved with Ryan, so I didn't ask further. I can guess, but that's enough for me. And then, a year later, I got remarried. My friends were shocked, but it was indeed a whirlwind wedding, only 6 months of dating. Back then, just a year ago, I was starting to be interested when my current husband asked me out for dinner. To put it modestly, my married life is incredibly happy. Actually, I quit my job to become a stay-at-home mom. It was a tough decision since I loved my job, but my current husband suggested I become a full-time homemaker to cherish the time with our child. Now, I spend quality time with my child and have fulfilling days. My husband has no biological ties to our child, but he dotes on them as if they were his own. He's always loved kids and says, blood relation doesn't matter. The child of the person I love is just as important to me, he told me when he proposed. I never imagined a life like this a year ago, let alone thought I'd be remarried. Sometimes people ask what happened to my ex-husband, but I really don't know. I'm happy now, so I don't care what Ryan is up to. Child support is paid without fail, and I suppose he's just living as before. He hasn't reached out wanting to see the child either. So, other than financial ties, Ryan and I are completely estranged. It was truly hard back then and infuriating, but if I'm happy now, that's all that matters. I was living such a happy life, but then. One day, when I returned from shopping, my ex-husband Ryan was lying in wait at the entrance to the apartment. The moment he spotted me, Ryan came running over. "Martha, let's make up. I want to live happily with the kid and you." "No way, absolutely not." "Why not? You were sad about our split too." "I was shocked back then, but now, I feel nothing." "Please, it has to be you, Martha. I was wrong. Forgive me." I always thought it was strange for him to suddenly beg for reconciliation after being so calm. "By the way, didn't you remarry your bride-to-be?" "Yeah, but it turned out the child wasn't mine." "Ah, I see." I thought as much, but I kept my composure and listened to Ryan. "My current wife and I, we conceived naturally without fertility treatments, so I thought it was destiny." "Destiny, huh?" "That's why I left you and remarried her. But, the child that was born, had features unlike a Caucasian. My wife and I both are typically Caucasian, so something seemed off." "Oh, and then?" "When I got a DNA test, it proved there was no biological relationship between me and the child. I was deceived by that woman." "That's unfortunate." "I have male infertility, you know. Natural conception was almost impossible. I should have been suspicious from the moment we conceived without treatment. Then, I realized that it was just a moment of madness. That's why, Martha, let's start over." No, why would that lead to us getting back together? We have a strong bond from going through fertility treatments together, don't we? No matter how much I refused, Ryan kept making excuses to get back together. When I pushed him away, he clung to my legs, begging. Honestly, I felt nothing but nausea. I was really troubled, especially with the neighbors watching, but then. "Stay away from my wife." "My wife?" My husband, Lucas, forcefully removed Ryan, who was clinging to me. Actually, I met Ryan at the hospital and he asked me out to dinner afterwards. I thought it was just a polite offer from a kind doctor. We even exchanged contacts, and then it actually led to a date. Later on, I found out Lucas had fallen in love with me at first sight. At that time, I was married and he thought, I envy her husband, but then, after he found out I had divorced at a postnatal checkup, he thought, this is my chance. Then, things progressed quickly and we were married within 6 months. So, back to the story, Ryan finally realized I had remarried and gave up, leaving our apartment. He went back crying openly, and I couldn't help but laugh. After that, there were no more surprise visits from Ryan. Lucas said, "If you come again, it's going to be a police matter." That seemed to work effectively. As for why Ryan suddenly insisted on getting back together, it turns out his wife after our divorce was quite the playgirl. She had been involved with many men at the same time, and one day when she found out she was pregnant, she told all potential fathers about the baby to press them into marriage. Ryan was just one of those men. All the other men knew of her promiscuous ways and avoided her. Unaware of his wife's true nature, Ryan mistook the pregnancy as destiny. Thus, he left me right after giving birth to remarry his ex. As for the wealthy background of his ex-wife, it turns out that was true, but not in the way he expected. Indeed, her family was wealthy, but they had disowned her long ago due to her misbehavior. In the end, Ryan gained nothing from marrying her despite his expectations. So, Ryan was now divorced again, trying to remarry me. There were so many things to question, and I felt just as dumbfounded. Finally, Lucas's concerns that he shared with me in the hospital were cleared up, and as he predicted, everything has now settled down for good. Actually, there's a bit more to the story. I'm pregnant. Lucas may be an obstetrician, but this is his first time being a father, so he's quite thrilled. However, he's already gearing up with determination, saying, "I'll deliver our child myself." Then, we decided to formally adopt my first child with Lucas. We had been discussing adoption for a while, considering what's best for Lucas and the child. But after Ryan showed up, we decided it was best to cut ties completely and take the leap into adoption now that a second child is on the way. There may come a day when we'll tell the child the whole truth, but Lucas gives so much love and is genuinely a real father. After all, when there's love, the biological bond doesn't really matter, does it? A month later, I safely gave birth to our second child. Lucas, as both a doctor and a husband, was there for the birth and couldn't help but shed tears at the arrival of his first biological child. Now, I live happily with my two beautiful children and Lucas.